Your Eminences, your Graces, and dignitaries, I just want to congratulate everybody for participating in this truly historic conference. It's historic for many reasons. One of the reasons that we are involved in is having the message that you bring input to the American government. For those of you who aren't familiar with Washington, that's not an easy thing to do. The average United States senator receives 25,000 written communications a week. So getting this information into the policymakers' minds is not an easy thing, but it is something that has been done by His Eminence, Archbishop Demetrius, and by the Archons under the leadership of Dr. Limbarakis. His Eminence is too humble to mention it, but for every United States president who has been in Washington since he has been Archbishop, he has been very close to, whether it was Bill Clinton always insisting that His Eminence sat next to him at the meetings at the White House, whether it was George Bush, who once, when His Eminence apologized for taking so much of his time, said, "Your Eminence, you can't take too much of my time. I value your great wisdom and your gentle soul." And whether it is Barack Obama, who has a one-on-one meeting with His Eminence, year in and year out, it can't be overestimated as to the role that they have played. As well, with a recent development on the Ecumenical Patriarch and the Ecumenical Patriarchate, His Eminence and Dr. Limbarakis came to Washington to brief the Congress. The chairman, the person that the Republican Party put in charge of representing them on foreign policy issues, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and the person that the Democratic Party put in charge of this issue, both came to hear the briefing of His Eminence and Dr. Limbarakis, just on an update of that issue. It doesn't matter whether Republican or Democrat. The subject of the Ecumenical Patriarchate is an extremely important issue in Washington. That wasn't always the case. And the Order of St. Andrew and what His Eminence has done have a great deal to do with the difference. For example, His Eminence, His All Holiness received what is called the Congressional Gold Medal. It is an award given by the United States very rarely. It was given to George Washington, for example, or to the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill also received it. When His All Holiness received it, he had more co-sponsors, more senators and members wanting to sponsor that legislation than any bill on record at that time. Very recently, on the subject of religious freedom, 90 of the 100 United States senators signed a letter to the president urging him to fight very hard for religious freedom of the Ecumenical Patriarchate. 191 members of the House did the same. And let me tell you a very extraordinary thing that was said by our country's Vice President, Joe Biden. He was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and vice president, and he said, "In these positions, I've had an opportunity to meet virtually every world leader." He said, "And I say this as a very serious practicing Catholic." He said, "The two most Christ-like individuals I have encountered are Nelson Mandela and Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew." There's no doubt as well that Hillary Clinton is just deeply invested in the Ecumenical Patriarchate, and as many of you know, she may well be the next president of the United States. When she was First Lady, she played an instrumental role in having Bill Clinton become the first United States sitting president to visit the Ecumenical Patriarchate. As United States Senator, she was a very strong advocate of religious freedom for the Ecumenical Patriarchate and was dealing with it on a weekly basis. And as Secretary of State, she as well was deeply involved and came so very close to getting the Halki Seminary reopened. It was a very personal target of her own. The issue was so important to her that when she heard of this conference, and she certainly wanted to be with us, but in the fact that she couldn't, she wanted to make sure that she could at least address this very important issue, and she provided us with this videotape.
Greetings to their eminences, graces, the reverend clergy, and the members of the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle, Archons of the Ecumenical Patriarchate. I'm delighted to add my support to the Second Archon International Conference on Religious Freedom. Religious freedom is a fundamental human right. It's also bound up with other important rights: the right of people to think what they want, say what they think, associate with others, assemble peacefully, without the state looking over their shoulders or prohibiting them from doing so. The theme of this conference is tearing down walls, and that is so appropriate. As I traveled the world as Secretary of State, I saw how religious intolerance and persecution divides societies and holds back progress and stability. In many places in recent years, we've seen old hatreds reignite and religious minorities once again become targets of discrimination and even violence. So I applaud your efforts to tear down the walls and promote interfaith tolerance and understanding. In particular, I want to salute His All Holiness, Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew. Through my years of friendship with His All Holiness, I have admired his commitment to build bridges across religious and cultural divides in Turkey and around the world. We've worked together to encourage positive steps, like continuing to push for the reopening of the Halki Seminary and to encourage constructive dialogue. I hope this conference further advances the Patriarch's vision of inclusion and freedom, and I look forward to hearing about the progress you will make because you have come together to demand that the walls be torn down. Thank you so much for everything you are and will do.